Hi, buddy. Okay, something's wrong. What? It says I'm still live. I can't hear anything. Let's see. It says you are muted. How do I unmute these? Muted. Everything I see, Travis, it shows you and it says muted. It's okay, pup. Calm down. Travis, if you can hear me, wave your hand. Okay. All right. Yeah, I can't hear you, which means my headphones are still good on battery. Did I mute something? What is that squeaky noise? Do I double tap? When I touch your picture, it just goes away. Okay, for your images, it says backstage. I don't know if that helps you at all. Muted, muted, backstage. I'm going to move away from this dog. He's driving me crazy. If there's anybody watching, and you guys can hear me, having a little technical difficulties. Travis is trying to get dialed in. So I can't hear Travis, if that's the case for you guys. I see Travis in the preview windows, but I cannot hear him. This is a little different platform that I was trying the other day. Trying to work out some kinks. Figure out the best system for you guys.
What is up, guys? It's Travis Moran here with Nick, the Informative Fisherman. We're testing out some good live platforms here, and Nick obviously out on the water, and I am at home with a cocktail, though, guys. It's Friday. We've had a long week. We've got a lot to do. I hope that the STIX fam is sitting at home as well with a little cocktail. Hopefully we're bringing you guys a little bit of entertainment. We're live. I guess I should never cheers and not sip. That's extremely bad luck. But we are live right now on Facebook and on YouTube. If you guys got any questions, we'll be answering all kinds of questions. Hopefully Nick will be catching some fish and bringing a little bit of liveliness to this live stream here. Dan Diagnon and Mark Rainford, what's up, guys? Thanks for joining us in the chat room. And on Facebook, I'll be getting on there and saying what's up in just a second. But guys, this is going to be part of more of our interaction that we're going to have. We since the beginning with STIX fishing. The way this started was, you guys probably all know that Nick and I are close friends, and let's push this a little bigger here. Oh, we're gonna have to go full live with me. I think Nick will reconnect here in just a second. But meanwhile, we're waiting for Nick to come back in. I will hang out with you guys a little bit. Nick's checking the service on his lake, but this is a new platform that I've been doing over on Lucky Tackle Box and really having some fun. Where we've been out on the water. We've been doing Tackle Tuesdays where we go through a bunch of different baits. But then Nick and I really got together and said, okay, what can we do for STIX? Because this is a great opportunity, especially with Nick having access right in his backyard to that lake where he can go over and answer questions in real time with our community. And then I can sit here in the office and push through on some different graphics and kind of try to keep it lively and keep it moving. When Nick and I are together, it usually stays lively and interesting. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the outcome will be with this whole project. And once again, as live goes, there's always some little roadblocks and speed bumps along the way. But I think that this could be a great way to keep interacting with you guys. With our community. So if you've got any questions, now my Facebook is up. Brian Newton, what's up? I hear you, man. Brian Newton, I appreciate you giving us the heads up. Catch me dinner. All right, Nick's going to catch you a delicious sea bass if we can get him live here again. Michael Coleman, what's up? Thanks for joining in. Guys, right now we are waiting for Nick. I think he's resetting his camera at the moment. I shot him some text messages. The problem is when we go live, he can't hear me. And so he doesn't know if he's actually live or not. So I shot him some text that said, we can hear you great. You look beautiful as ever. And so once he gets that text message, and I'll say, just keep talking and I will talk anytime he's not talking. And so once he gets that message, I'm sure he will pop back up on the live stream here and we will be able to go back up with him. But guys, in the Facebook and the YouTube, I want to know, Family Budget Fisherman, thanks for jumping in. I want to know if you guys are out using your rods. How have your rods been working out for you? We've had overwhelming positive feedback from everyone, and it's something that Nick and I, obviously, we've used these rods now for a number of years, and so we've really enjoyed them. And we enjoy hearing from you guys any feedback as well, because this is something that we're always trying to improve on and always trying to be increasing the positive experience for everybody watching here. And I'm not sure where Nick is. Let's see if he texts me back here. No comments. No one using the rods? Anyone been out fishing lately? I have been. I've been fishing a little private reservoir up in Northern California, which is one of the only live ones open. And He fell in. Steve Douglas said he fell in. Well, Steven, I didn't think about that until you just told me. I hope Nick's okay. Nick, if you're okay, he just texted me, hi there. Come back in. Mr. Informative Fisherman. Can you? Oh, you can't. It won't let you join again? Odd. And you're using your Informative Fisherman one. What just happened, dude? What? Invite guest, Informative Fisherman. Invite. They just sent you another invite. Because yeah, we're live. We're hanging out, dude. We're talking shop. We got people that are like, dude, who is this guy? I thought we were coming on for the Informative Fisherman. So I just resent you a shore fishing in Gilroy. It's been hit or miss. Dan Diagnan. Dan, I'm going to have to hear where you're shore fishing. I've been wondering if any of those reservoirs have access to them, or you're just fishing the random little those little lakes that are just kind of scattered all throughout. Because I've been thinking about making a little Gilroy trip. Nick, I sent you an email. Yeah. Maybe turn your phone on and off. Well, there you go, dude. People of the internet, I've got some news. Nick, the Informative Fisherman, is logging back in. Maybe. He's closer than he was a few moments ago. Well, Mr. D. Miles just said, where the hell is Nick? Nice. Nick saying that he won a trip with you won a trip with him, Mr. D. Miles, and hopefully good news. Nick will maybe be coming in here in a second. And remember, you can't do it when you're talking to me. All right, so once you get in, Nick, we can hear you fine. Everything's looking good. I will text you if we lose your feed, and you can just try to log back in. But just go ahead and talk, dude, and I'll fill in the gaps where you somehow run out of words to say. Later. All right, let's get this party going. Family budget fishermen. Yes, the 1 and 2 rods are fantastic. Those are the 2 spinning rods. Those are great tools to use. And we have them back in stock. We were actually out of stock for quite a while with those. But we are all geared up, so you shouldn't have a problem getting those going. Let me renew my sources here, and Nick should be coming in here in a minute. So as he tries to get back in here, guys, I've been doing a lot of live stuff. We've been doing live from that little private reservoir and catching fish out there. I actually caught trout. Oh, Nick is in here. All right, Nick is back in. Oh, you do? Hold on.
Weird. Technology is amazing, bro. Sometimes I just don't get it. Oh, and it says you're muted now. This is fascinating.
I may have just cracked the code, Nick. Can you hear me now?
Oh, I gotcha. Your
There we go.
connection expired. Please check your connection and try again.
Don't touch anything. Don't touch anything. It says that sometimes, but we can see you.
I'm not touching nothing.
We can see you.
All right. Better figure out how to unlink this thing from my account. Let's see. Let's see. All right. Okay. Woo. Whew.
All right.
Brutal.
Catch a fish.
Oh, that's what I want to do so bad right now. There's no better way to get over some stress of not being able to log in to online video apps and catching a fish. Hallelujah. Thank you, fish gods. Let's do this. Now, little disclosure. Fishing is very tough here. And we're going to be talking about that. So should a topwater rat be the bait of choice? Probably not. Looks like I already have a guy fishing back here, too.
Let's
see.
You got crowds back there, man?
Yep. Sure do. All right, so how do I sound, by the way, with these headphones, Travis?
Sounds great. Loud and clear, buddy.
I got fishermen there, fishermen there. So social distancing, you know. I'm gonna throw a jerk bait on the hybrid cast. Do a little.
Are they on boats?
Yeah. I guess right now is the time. Must know something I don't. Yeah, see, people think my private lake is just super private, but it gets hit. Reality check. Nick gets company. So a little something that I'm doing right now is, I know you guys can't tell, but I'm casting out to the middle of one of my coves. And the reason I'm casting out to the middle is I sunk fish shelters almost in every cove in the lake. These are big, like irrigation tubes with holes all through them, piles of Christmas trees to build artificial reefs for bass and juvenile panfish. So the big ones like hanging around those a lot of the time. And the fascinating part is we had a bunch of fish moving up to spawn. And then we had some brutal rains. We went from about 8.5, 9 foot visibility down to 1. So that is a harsh change. So I came out a couple days ago, and right after it got real dirty, 4 cast off the dock with a 3/8 ounce Bill Lewis rattle trap and stuck a 4-pounder. And I'm like, well, okay. Since they were used to using their eyes, now they have to go off their lateral line, their feel and hearing. So I went out and threw for 2 hours without another bite. Go figure.
That sounds like me with a lipless, Nick.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? So I went out and I tried some other things. I did find some suspended fish back over floating grass that's tore off the bottom. And this floating grass is actually stuck to my jerkbait. Right now, I'm not sure if you guys can make that out very well.
We can.
But that's called sago pondweed. and it looks like grass, but it is part of the algae family. And the bass love sitting in that stuff. But it also breaks off the bottom very easily. Even if a hard wind and this stuff grows near the surface, it'll break off and it'll kind of clump up. And these days where it gets a little funky, every now and then these bass will just pull off of the shoreline and suspend directly under those little patches if you have a lake that doesn't have much other surface cover. And it's all around me right here. I could see it growing up off the bottom, and then other patches that have broke off because last couple of days we had 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. So by seeing that, it told me, okay, these fish pulled off, and they probably have lockjaw. And those fish were just isolated like 30, 40 feet off of the bank. And when you get into that situation, you have some options. Basically, when fish pull back off, when they have spawning on their mind and they pull back off, can be one of the most difficult times to fish in the spring. So what's really going on is a lot of the time they're going to pull right back into heavy cover, or they're just going to suspend under something and not really trigger on anything. So there's a few different options you have. You have suspended bait style that you can do from like shallow running jerk bait, super slow sinking wacky rigs. These are for the suspended fish. Then you have an Alabama rig, which is actually excels at getting suspended fish too. The only key difference is I'm trying to force them to react to these baits. So what you'll see right now, I have a jerk bait in my hand, and you'll see me snap, snap, and stop, snap, snap, and stop. And I'm not sitting it for a long period of time because I know the fish are not biting very well. So what I'm doing is trying to be more efficient with this jerk bait by getting it around them and snapping it and stopping it, snapping it and stopping it, trying to force them to react and take a slap at it. The nice part is there's 3 treble hooks on this jerk bait, so if they slap at it, something's probably glued to them. And hopefully it's a little sharp hook point. And I just tore through some of that pondweed right out here by the boat.
FYI, Nick, we have a picture now of the Sago pondweed up on the screen there as well for our viewers to take a look at.
Ah, terrific.
What jerk bait are you using?
Cool. This is an old school Yellowbird SP115.
Okay.
I don't even know if they sell these anymore, but it's equivalent to a lot of the 115 style jerk baits. Anything that says 115 is usually a very shallow running jerk bait that's around 5 inches long. So whatever your favorite brand of jerk bait is that gets down around 4 to 6 feet is your deal. I'm throwing this on 12-pound fluorocarbon right now, and I'm getting pretty aggressive with it, snapping it upright, trying to keep it out of the grass, but I'm still getting grass on it. Which means I probably need to work it with my rod tip higher, like this. So what's going on is when I rip that jerk bait free, I'm ripping it vertically. So it's going up out of the weeds instead of ripping into another pile of weeds. So I'm just ripping it out, stopping it. Then I'll go down a couple times with it and try to rip back up high again with it. And let's see. Still got grass on there. So
Nick, what color is that?
It's a painted. It has a white base to it. And so if you look here, it has a white base to it, but it's painted with purple and blue and kind of pearl on the bottom with a little yellow under the head. The reason why I like a painted finish right now is if you'll notice my sky is very overcast and the water's a little dirtier. If the water was cleaner, I would be using something more translucent. If I had a bright bluebird sky, I would use something with a little bit more chrome in it and it would flash. But since it is overcast, I like a painted version. I feel like actual painted color stands out a lot better in overcast, and more solid colors stand out better in dirty water. So I'm kind of combating both of them with my color choice right there. Sometimes it makes a very, very minor difference. Sometimes it makes all the difference in the world. I've been out with guys that have had almost identical looking baits as me, but there was just a little subtle color change. Believe it or not, I didn't want to believe it, but It makes a big difference oftentimes. So one thing I'm trying there, so I'm trying that snappy reaction. I feel pretty confident that there's a fish on this bank. There kind of has been lately, even though it's been tough. I'm kind of running into one every other time. So I know I'm around them up here. So I'm going to try to stay far off. I'm about 40, 45 foot off the bank right here. Most of these fish are within a foot to 10 feet of the bank right now. I haven't really been catching fish out over the deeper water, except when I see that floating grass. If I see that floating grass, it could be out over 12 foot of water, just right out beyond me. And that's where I will try throwing the jerk bait out next to it. I will throw A-rigs out by it, but if it's very isolated, like a wacky rig worm with a small hook to really slow your rate of fall, can be huge. That could be a very large player. What I'm going to do is I see some up in front of me here. So I'm probably going to grab a wacky rig stick worm, like a Senko. It's the Savage Gear armor worm. And I'm going to try moving a little bit slower and see if I can force them to react with a little bit slower falling wacky rig by their head. And that guy is, where are you hiding? Over here. Jeez, it's the only one I moved to the back of the boat. How about that? Good old classic wacky rig with a size 1 hook. I will often wacky rig with up to 2/0. And the difference is, right now, I'm on my lake and there's not a lot of hangups. There's not a lot of timber in this area that I'm throwing. To where the benefit is there is a lot of loose grass, there's a lot of algae. So the smaller hook tears through algae a lot easier. Essentially, it's like a thinner blade for like a fillet knife is going to cut through the fish easier than a thicker blade. So that principle is the same when it comes to a tiny hook. So right there, I was down in the algae and I came out perfectly clean. If I was throwing a 2/0 hook, I could have very easily not have been able to shake the algae off because the hook diameter is larger. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I also know I have to take my time when I have a smaller hook in them, because with a thinner diameter of a smaller hook, you can cut a fish by pulling too hard. Travis knows. He's fished plenty of big tournaments. You look at a fish in the live well, or you bring it up and land it at the boat, and you'll see it cut through the roof of its mouth, and you got lucky that your hook stayed in there. I'm sure you've experienced that before a few times, haven't you, Travis?
Yeah, I didn't realize that was a. I think Andy Morgan was the first time I heard that was that kind of brought that up to me. If you see those cuts, that means you've got, it can be the hook or it can be your rod. And that was that.
Too stiff of a rod, yeah.
Yep. You don't want to see tearing in the rod is basically what it comes down to. I mean, tearing in the lips.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's one thing you're going to notice too. The reason, not only why when you see STIX in my hand right here, you see the hybrid spin. That's what I'm throwing this wacky rig stick worm on right now. You're going to notice a lot of our rods are moderate fast tapers. Now, why would they be moderate fast taper? And what is a moderate fast taper? A fast is just bending up in the tip of your rod. Moderate right in the middle. Moderate fast right between, which is actually the hardest rods to build. But why do we like a moderate fast taper? It gives you the best of all worlds, okay? You can still pinpoint your cast very accurately. You still have cushion to where you don't pull it away from the fish. And most fast and extra fast rods were built such a long time ago when lines had a ton of stretch. Nowadays, fishing lines are all made to have much lower stretch. So something has to give. And why would you go and take tires off a sports car to throw it on a 1987 Ford Pinto? It doesn't work right. Everything comes together. So what we've done is made rods with slightly more taper to combat like braided lines and fluorocarbons that we all use nowadays. The only rod in our lineup that's actually a fast action is the number 5. That's the surface stick, because the only time you truly need a fast action is if you're skipping or walking the dog. And walking the dog, it's for that top water, and that's why that surface stick is a fast action. I lose you, Travis? Sounds like I did. What was that? Oh, I hear him again.
Nick, I'm still here. I actually I swapped up on the screen. I took myself off, and I've got underwater footage of the wacky rig going. So I'm going to tune out while I put that back up on here. But maybe you can talk about why that wacky rig setup is so good in terms of the action. You kind of talked about how it's good to get through that grass and stuff. We're seeing the underwater footage of the bait falling. It's a different stick bait. It's the gambler bait stick bait, but it's still a Cinco style. They're all relatively the same type of action is what they're trying to do. So I'll put that footage back up.
Right. Okay. So guys, when you see that worm falling, okay, it's sitting horizontal to where you see both ends of the worm moving. That's that undulating motion. Cooch, rest in peace, brother. But good old Cooch used to always say, I like it when it undulates, Nick. It's got to undulate. And that undulating motion is slowing the rate of fall for that worm. It's a very natural motion, like something fell out of a tree, a bird dropped something. That's how anything lifelike, anything, that's going to just fall through the middle of the water is going to have that natural motion to it, and it's going to move slower. So it spends time looking natural, falling dead-like through the middle of the water column, which is huge, and fish trigger on that a ton. And by your hook being right in the middle, when they suck it in, usually a quality fish is just going to suck your whole worm in, which tends to place your hook right near the dead center of the roof of the fish's mouth, which is the hardest part. So we can get away with using smaller hooks. If they were just going to consistently grab one end or the other, for a big fish, that would kind of suck, and then we would have to probably try to somehow come up with a way to put a hook on each end of the worm, and it's going to take away the action. So we got lucky that big bass tried to suck in the whole thing every time. So that worked out for all of us involved. And the reason why a wacky rig can be good no matter the conditions. It can be spring through dead of winter. You could still fish a wacky rig and catch fish. The benefits of it, it's very good at catching numbers of fish. Sometimes it's very good at catching big fish. Most of the time, it's good at catching a lot of fish. Now, it's slow. As you can see, I'm just trickling along, barely touching the trolling motor every so often. The wacky rig falls very slow. You cannot cover much water with it. If you know you have fish located, or if you're stuck bank fishing, you only have one spot, you can't go far, a wacky rig can be a great choice. If you get to a new body of water you've never fished there, I will not tell you to pick up a wacky rig unless you're looking at something that just looks amazing. A point, a lay down tree, something you want to spend time on and fish thoroughly, then throw a wacky rig. But for efficiency of covering water, not necessarily the best deal. Depending on the worm, you can get down about a foot per second. Bass could be on the bottom. That may not be your deal. You may want to have a nail weighted version where you stick the nail in one end of the worm. You could try it that way to cover it a little bit faster, but that's generally where your reaction baits are going to come into play. Conditions wise with a wacky rig, when you look out where I'm fishing right now, it's overcast, windy, 63-degree water temperature. I would say fish a reaction bait, fish a square bill, fish a chatterbait, fish a lipless crankbait, fish a rocker head, something that's going to cover water fast and look for active fish. Now, why am I not doing that? It's simple, because I've been trying that, and my fish are just got funky, and the spring is one of those times where that could work against you. You could say, these conditions are fantastic to throw a wacky rig or something, and throw a reaction bait, and for some reason they're just not biting it. What that means is you could have ended up in the tail end of that front. It could have been after a rain, and then they got funky. They liked the conditions up shallow before that, and then they pulled off, and they have to make their mind to go back up there again. So that could be a good time to throw a finesse rig like the wacky rig. Usually, finesse rigs excel when it's slick, calm, sunny. Usually, reaction baits do the opposite. When it's a little bit more windy, water's a little bit more stained, lower pressure, reaction baits can excel because the fish are usually much more willing to chase something down.
Love it, Nick. Got some great info right there. Let's take some questions, though, from our audience right now. We got a little activity going on. So let me browse real quick. Let's see. Family Budget Fisherman says, Nick, are you seeing any bedfish?
I do know where there's a couple, but I'm down to about a foot visibility. Gotcha. Oh, that's a big one. Oh, boy. I had no idea that fish was almost under the boat by the time I set the hook. I'm not sure if you guys seen that. Wow, that's a good one. It's a good one.
We're loving this, bro.
Whoa. There we go. Woo-hoo-hoo. Now, if you guys notice something, when we were designing STIX rods, you'll notice the spinning rods have a slightly longer tail end. I hate short handle grips because you can't do that. See how that's under my forearm right there? That's really nice when you're fighting a big fish that the rod doesn't shake all over the place. Oh, you guys are in luck here. You guys are in luck. I haven't gotten one like this in the last 2 trips. Come on. I'm going to bring her around. I want you guys to see something, too, how I'm landing this fish. You're going to see me reach up a couple feet in front of my other hand. And I'm going to have about the same length of line out, equal to the rod, if this fish stops digging. And I'm going to come up just behind this eye here. I'm going to keep tension, and I'm going to point the rod across to my opposite shoulder, and boom. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Look at this. Take a look at this. That was no reaction. Mama was hungry.
Wow.
Yeah. Let me see if I can even see the hook. I may have to do some surgery here. No, I could definitely get to it. It's in the back top of her crushers. So, guys, one thing you really want to have is an old rusted pair of pliers laying around on your deck that you never take out of the rain. Just like that there. Nice and clean for the fish. No, but what you really want is long needle nose pliers. Really long tips are going to help you get down to a lot of these hooks that you may not be able to access with a shorter pair of pliers. Now, for this predicament, I'm going to have to tear my worm just where I can get a better look at my fish. Now, the long pliers, if it was in the throat, I would show you another trick, but these long pliers allow me to turn it out to where I can easily get that hook out without harming that fish. I'm going to let her go. Yeah. Thank you. Well, I think I lost Travis again, guys. Unless he's doing something clever. He may just be doing something clever, and you guys may still be seeing me. The good part is, I didn't even expect to get a big one right there.
I'm here, dude. Don't you count me out, Nick.
It's good to hear that voice. The sultry sound.
That was absolutely amazing. That was a great game time live fish right there. Nick, I'm going to leave this. I'm going to leave the screen again because I'm putting up a picture of a wacky rig because that's what you're doing. For people just tuning in, will you let them know what setup you just caught that on?
Yes, this is the hybrid spin with a 3000 series spinning reel and 8-pound tactical fluorocarbon. Then I have a Mustad size 1 mosquito hook, and that is the Armor Tube Worm by Savage Gear. It falls just as fast as the Senko. The nice part is it has a thin layer of mesh that goes all the way down the worm to where I don't have to use anything extra, like an O-ring, to keep that wacky rig on there, that mesh hangs onto that hook. So really nice worm that's not very, very well known about at all. Actually, I don't even know where I caught that fish. All I remember is making the cast, lost connection, started reeling. She was all the way under the edge of the gunnel, and I popped her. Usually, okay. So I'm going to tell you guys, I just got a crazy clue right there. Another fish just got it and ran, which means I landed on a bed fish. When I lifted up, I had no pressure of the fish at all, which means it was most likely a male that grabbed one end of it, had no intention to eat, ran it off of his bed. So what that tells me is most likely there's a female nearby, and he felt the need to defend. Usually a wacky rig worm is not on the bed roughing it up. So what happens is the female sometimes will get first dibs. If it starts roughing up the bed, the male will generally grab it. But if there's a female right there with the male oftentimes will get it as fast as he can and run off with it. So if you see your bait land, it takes off, you lift up, there was no pressure, most likely that was a guarding male that had a female nearby. So make 3 or 4 more casts to the exact same area. Once he gets fired up, the female will oftentimes get in there and get aggressive with him.
Nick, I got a question for you that I watch everybody kind of deal. How do you make the same cast again? When you get bit, what do you look at? Do you look at the shore? I mean, is there anything to make sure that you know that you can line up that cast again?
Believe it or not, I try not to focus on the water. And this is a really weird thing you're going to hear me say right here. What I do is try to take in the whole image through my peripheral vision. Try to imagine everything around you. If I look up out of the top of my eyes, I'll see trees, I see something over here, and that gives you a better bearing than actually looking at the water. And I'll tell you this right now, go out on a body of water, look at the water, spin a circle in your boat, and think you know where you're going to look at the shoreline. When you bring your head up, you will be off target. So I try not to look at the water. If I miss a bite, I immediately try to get my bearings, and I watch my surrounding, then make this exact same cast. And a lot of the time you're going to miss either way. So that's why I said make 3 or 4 casts, because you never really know. You can spend a little bit more time in that area as well. Try to change your angle. If you make a repeated cast to there, so I'm going to probably move up 50 feet and cast back again. A lot of the time there's a sweet spot. When a little male does that, there's a sweet spot that the female's willing to target. And a foot of visibility, you have no idea where she is. And strictly by changing your angle and making multiple casts, you're just increasing your odds. Nice. There's another buck.
Couple things here. Let's see here. Armando Ramos, tune in from Auburn, California. Josh Lee, what's up, guys? Watching from North Carolina. And then over on YouTube, Mr. D Miles, what is the spinning reel you're using and what line?
So this is just a Revo X. This is Abu Garcia's inexpensive reel. Not going to say inexpensive. They're $100. But for quality fishing reel that's relatively inexpensive, I have no affiliation with Abu Garcia. I just happen to enjoy the reels. I think they're good little workhorses, and I like the way they paired up to the STIX rods. But the line is 8-pound tactical fluorocarbon. And what's nice about the tactical fluorocarbon, it's made by P-Line, is historically fluorocarbon has been known to be stiff, and it has anywhere from like 3 to 5% stretch. The tactical fluorocarbons come in more like around 7-8% stretch from what I can tell, strictly from making thousands and thousands of 100-foot casts and feeling it on my hook set. And it's a little bit more limp because of that, to where you can fish it, and you don't have to have braid backer necessarily, like you do a lot of fluorocarbons, because they're really stiff and they want to jump off of that spool a lot of the time with you cast. And you can see, that fluorocarbon's pretty limp. It doesn't have a lot of tension to it, and which still really helps dictate the bite from long range. I have no problem feeling fish from long range, but too stiff of fluorocarbons, much more for a bait caster. Every company, guys, you're going to see that they have multiple different fluorocarbon types. I don't care who you're partial to. I've been with P-Line forever. I don't care if whatever brand you want to use, just learn about the differences. It's going to help you. If it's a high abrasion fluorocarbon, if they're saying high abrasion or extra strength, it's probably a stiffer fluorocarbon made for bait casting setups. If they say long casting or limp, it's probably made for a spinning setup. And if you have any confusion about it, there's pro staffers out there for all these companies. Just ask the guys before you buy it. Fluorocarbon's expensive stuff. And I'm going to give you another little secret to go along with that. Another little secret is there's a nice fish. Yeah. It was tough 2 days ago. So the little secret to go along with that is you can't see it right there in my spool, but about half of my spool is braided line. The benefit to that is once I feel like my fluorocarbons wore out, I could take it off, and I've only used half of the spool's worth to where I can basically get double the amount of line for my cost. Now, the initial investment of braids, semi-expensive, but in the long run, you don't ever need to replace that braid. So you're good to go. I want you guys to look at this landing technique again. Not sure if you can make out the distance of that fish. I'm just going to hold him up so you can relatively see. That's actually a little bit shorter than the length of my rod, but I'm going to grab in that same position, across my opposite shoulder, brings the fish to me, brings the fish to your netter. Whatever you need to do, you're good to go. It's a great way. You can lay the rod right down, makes it much, much easier to manage. This is a little buck, and this guy had a leech on him growing up, if you see his gill right there. So I'm going to analyze this fish. I'm going to look at his gums. There's a little bit of red in the roof of his mouth. I'm going to rub my finger. He's got pokey teeth, so chances are that guy's either been feeding on bluegills or baby crappies prior to moving up and building that nest. So does he necessarily think that wacky rig color right there in the watermelon red flake is a bluegill or a crawdad? I have a feeling he thought it may have been a crawdad, but he may have also thought it was a bluegill because he had pokey teeth, which is going to help me make much better analytical decisions in a spot. I could say, oh, if I rub my finger back and forth and I felt nothing pokey in the teeth, there may be crawdad eaters there, because crawdads tend to wear down those sharp teeth. If you catch them with real pokey teeth, chances are they haven't been feeding on crawdads. They've been feeding on softer bait fish like bluegills or shad or something of that nature. So there's clues from that. And a lot of the time their gums look real red. It looks real red and dark around their teeth from the calcium for the crawdad shells. That gives you a clue. You could put a fish in your light well and see if they spit up anything. That'll give you a clue. There's a lot of methods to the madness, guys. Just little tidbits in science and a little bit of clues, and just increasing your odds by making those adjustments from the clues you acquire. That's the coolest part about bass fishing. It's Mother Nature's chess game. And if you can't get a clue, and there's some days that I can't, it's just super tough, and they don't let me in, but there is always someone who's going to catch them. And I'm hoping to be that guy, but I'm not always that guy. I'll tell you that right now. Maybe it's Travis. No, not so much.
I am. I'm going through our comments and things. Sorry. I got lots cool. I'm throwing graphics on, trying to make you look good, Nick. But you're doing a good job.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. All right, so there was 2 boats in here fishing about, I don't know, probably about 20 minutes since we first started. Right on this seam that I'm about 20 foot off the shoreline. Most of these fish I seen a couple days ago. were suspended under floating grass straight out in front of the boat. So now I could throw that wacky rig and I got another shot at him. I would like to see if I can focus on getting a bigger one with a topwater rat. I'm going to throw the smaller rat strictly because the fishing has been tough. This is the STIX surface stick, 65-pound braid. Let's see if we can make it happen. Just try to creep this rat through there and see if we can get a better quality fish. I know these fish were sitting right about a foot or 2 foot from the surface right here. So even though they've pulled off and they don't want to eat, they're getting an opportunity at a high protein meal with a little mammal. So this may make a big girl trigger, whereas throwing the wacky rig buyer, maybe not. And the nice part is, it's a very natural, subtle look to where you notice I'm not on the trolling motor. I'm not moving forward at all. I'm sitting stationary and throwing out to these targets and creeping it in. I'm moving it very subtle and natural across the surface. That way, if I don't get bit on that, I still have another try at something else that's subtle. You know, if I went through with like a double buzz bait or something aggressive like a chatterbait subsurface, I may not try to make multiple casts to the same area if I'm just covering water. But this is my second cast right here with the rat. I'm bringing it back, watching real close to make sure no one's following it. A lot of the time they will follow it all the way to the boat. I like to stop the rat one time about 6 to 8 feet from the boat, then finish my retrieval, because a lot of the time that's when they're going to zip up and grab it. I don't know why that happens so many times that fish try to grab stuff right at the boat. I think it's just a directional change or a stop. We changed our cadence somehow, and then instantly it happened. Now I'll re-pick up that wacky rig that I've been catching them on and make that same cast. Now, it was only because I threw something subtle that gave me the confidence to retry something else subtle. Oh, that was grass. That was grass. Got excited. Pulling the trigger. Now, here's the thing. I want you guys to notice something. I'm not sure if you noticed it or not. What am I doing different right now than when I caught those last two fish? Exact same rig. I just did something different on that very first cast that I didn't do with those. Think about it, and I'm going to tell you. Here comes the answer. I'm retrieving the worm. That is the answer. The other ones, I cast it out, I shook it, I reeled it in, cast it out, shook it, and reeled it in. I was trying to be more efficient at covering the water column. This time, I tried to retrieve the worm across the whole area. Reason for that is I saw fish here previously, so I had increased amount of confidence that there was fish in the area, so I slowed my bait down. But that was not the clue that I got from actual fish eating it. So I got to really evaluate that. Cover the area because of preconceived information. A lot of the time is the best thing. This is why we pre-fish in bass fishing. This is why a lot of not so good guys can beat some of the best guys in the world if they all show up at the same time. Because a lot of the best guys in the world didn't get to apply all of their skill set from learning about that body of water a couple days in advance. So even though they had a different skill set, I am looking at a bass on, oh, there's a bass right here, and I casted right there, but 3-4 times. I just got drilled by a junior size. So now you'll notice too, I want to give you guys all the clues you can from watching these live feeds, is when I was back around the corner, you see that the water was a little bit rougher, and it's a little bit slicker right here. So with my toe, I just turned down the trolling motor speed a hair. I also seen a bass right next to the boat. I see another one. There's no way. If I catch this fish that I'm looking at, this will be amazing. I think he's seen me. I'm going to let it drop right there. Okay, there's no floating grass, but there is separate grass patches, and they all kind of seem to be in a line, which is about 25 foot off. So I'm going to make my cast right on that grass line. That's 2 fish in a row that I spotted